Welcome everyone to this last episode of year number 4 of College Football Time with Avery Miguel. I am Miguel. This is my partner Avery. And in this video, we're just gonna quickly gonna bring up some of the best moments of this year's college football, some of the top storylines. So Avery, ladies first. So in your mind, from the top of your head, what are some of the games that stood out to you? Some of the best moments or top storylines that stood out to you this year in college football.
I think and it's a tie for number one considering how the season ended. I think the beginning of the year when Miami beat Notre Dame, and also I believe it was week 5 or 6 when Indiana, that was the turning point when they beat Oregon. I think those two games were great for Miami. It was a great kickoff, no pun intended, for their team to see how well they could do, or in the aspect of can they play that premier team and win. For Indiana, they were on a roll. They were playing really good football, but at that point, they hadn't played a contender. But once they got to Oregon and not only came from behind to win, but win decisively, that was their turning point to go ahead and catapult how their season ended, which was a perfect season. I think those two games were absolutely crucial for both teams. And look what we got. They ended up in a national championship.
I strongly agree with the Notre Dame Miami one. Miami set the tone early on to beat a team that was in the national title game last year in Notre Dame, and that was a good game. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That one stood out to me. Another game that stood out to me was the Ole Miss versus Georgia, which that was a shootout between both teams, especially Georgia's comeback in the second half. And it came back to full circle when Ole Miss beat them in the college football playoffs. So there's that one. Another game that it might not be on so many people's minds, but it's definitely on mine. And that is when the Florida Gators and their defense basically made Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns life miserable. So
They,
that
they made them look human. They made
yes,
them look
yes.
human. The preseason kind of, and I like good hype. I like good hype for a team, but everybody kind of hyped up the Texas Longhorns. All of a sudden, they play Florida, and you're like, what happened?
So there's that one. In terms of teams that I thought they were gonna be great, but then I should say, fall off a cliff. That is LSU. The first 3, 4 weeks of the season, they look dominant, they look scary, and they just went inconsistent from there on. And in terms of storylines, James Franklin, him getting fired by Penn State, and then next thing you know, Virginia Tech hired him. He didn't even wait a year, not even 6 months. I thought it was gonna take him. I thought he was gonna take like a break,
I thought, yeah, I
and
thought I thought he'd take a complete year as well.
but boy, we were all wrong, and we were all full. So he just got another job just like that, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Yes.
And then of course we have the Big Bang, Lane Kiffin going to a rival, out of all places, going to a rival, and I can't wait for next year. That's one of the things that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. And it's weird because you're mentioning when we're talking about teams that we thought would do better. You mentioned LSU, and look how their season kind of ended and how they're getting a new head coach and how that's going to work. I also agree with you. Penn State, they looked awesome as far as like if you're looking at their season and looking at their team. I thought Penn State would make a run to go back into the college playoff. And not only do they fire their head coach, they fire their head coach mid-season. Now they ended their season pretty well, but I completely agree with you on that one. But as far as like, and of course Texas, but Texas they kind of had a flip-flop of LSU. They they were helter skelter. They were like, we weren't sure what team we were gonna get. And then all of a sudden they kind of pulled out to, it was a small percentage, but even they could have gotten into the college playoff, for the run they had in the past of the last like 4 or 5 games of the season. So those three teams for me were definitely like, okay, there was the hype. This is what happened. Now at the same point, it's almost like, okay, what are our predictions for next season now too?
Yes, another storyline, and this one I respect him. I like him as a coach, and that's Kyle Whittingham. After so many years, Utah, he go from Utah to Michigan. So Michigan is one of those teams I'm definitely gonna be look out for next season, see how they're gonna do. Um, a surprising team, in my opinion, to the point they even make it to the playoffs, and that is Tulane. Jack Retzloff, he went from BYU to Tulane, and what he's done in his first year with Tulane was big time. But regardless, some congratulations to Tulane, James Madison as well. And of course, Notre Dame and their pettiness, them getting left out of the playoffs and not wanting to participate in the ball game. If I'm Notre Dame, Avery, and I think you said this and I agree with you. If I'm Notre Dame, if you want to make a statement loud and clear, go to the ACC.
That's
Go
where
there.
they
Go
are.
there.
That's where they are in college basketball. So why not do the same? And I'm still going to be a proponent of it. They need a conference. And granted, we now know in the business of college football that when you win, it is your conference that gets money and it trickles down. So Notre Dame right now, any money they're getting is going directly to the school, and Notre Dame is a private school. However, Notre Dame, as prestigious as they are, what happened with their athletic director making that decision and not consulting to team or the players, the pettiness level that you really just you took a college football team life and exposure, but exposure to scouts, to new fans. You took that away from them because they would have played against BYU, which on paper could have been a fabulous bowl game. It could have been, and we said it with bowl games. You sometimes have these matchups that they don't happen, or maybe you get matchups like, oh, they played each other a couple years ago and it was a great game. Now these teams are better. Let's see how it works again. So and granted Notre Dame wants to be independent for the longest time, but I think after what happened this season, they really need to take a good look at getting into a conference because they have a problem now. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think I think Notre Dame thinks they're better than college football. I know that sounds wild, but I think Notre Dame thinks they're better than college football. It's almost like they think, well, if we do whatever we want, we'll get our way. No, what's going to happen is your recruiting is going to suffer, your fan base is going to suffer, and then every other team that plays you is not going to respect you. And now they have a shot, just like any team you want to pay to play you. We're looking at Northern Illinois, a couple years ago. Heck, we're looking at Miami, you know, uh, at the beginning of this season. Any team you pay to play you is not going to be like, oh, Notre Dame's going to pay us to play them. Let's go ahead and beat them. Especially if they say, hey, why don't you come to South Bend in order to do it? There's nothing worse than getting beat at home and you think you're better than everybody else. Now, Kyle Whittingham leaving Utah to go to Michigan, I'm I think that that's something we need to have eyes on at the beginning of next season. I really do, as well as um Iowa State's head coach going to Penn State. That is another one we need to have eyes on as well. Those two gentlemen have done wonders for Utah and Iowa State, respectively. And I think if even if you're a even if you're a fan of their former teams and you don't want to admit it, you want to keep an eye on their future teams. Now, you may not be a fan of their future teams, but one thing we greatly admire, and of course it is earned, is respect. And I think their fan base respects them so much, they're going to keep an eye on their new teams to see, okay, we could have had this, or we nearly had this, or we just had a really good run, especially looking at Kyle Whittingham and what Utah has done in 20-ish years. That, okay, where are you going to take that? Where are you going to take that mentality? Especially now with transfer portal and NIL and how that's going to work out. And hopefully it can get toned down a bit so that, again, still a proponent of it, student athletes. That's got to be it. But I mean, this season was a surprise from the get-go. It was a surprise to the end. And this is probably, even though this is our fourth year of doing college football time, this is probably the best football season I'm a fan of in a good long time. And I was glad to share it with you as well as everyone else that tuned in this year.
That's a perfect way to end it. I have nothing to say about that. That was brilliant, perfect. And I totally agree. I mean, you're not the only one, but I also thought about the same thing about Notre Dame. Sometimes it feels like as much as I respect and admire the program, but yes, at times they can come across as yes, we're bigger than college football. But like I said, I think they will join a conference sometime in the future because I'm a firm believer that everything comes to a stop at some point. Streaks are meant to be broken, droughts are meant to be broken. Certain things are just not forever. A lot of things are not forever. So I feel that it's going to happen at some point. I just hope that it happens during our lifetime. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Year 4 of college football time with Avery Miguel. I am so looking forward to year 5 and what we're going to bring next year. This is our favorite this is our best so far, year 4, but every year we're trying to take things up a notch. So we're looking forward to year 5. If you guys always follow the MM Journal, me and Avery, our next stop is March Madness, talking March Madness, which is going to be around the corner because nowadays time flies. So March is going to be around the corner. But even before March Madness, and Avery, I'm going to share it here. UNC, Duke, they always face each other twice in the regular season. So we got to make a content about that, a preview and a recap. You have your Duke stuff. I have my USC stuff. So let's make it happen. So guys, tune in for that. That's the next thing we're going to be focusing on, me and Avery.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful year. Again, I'm so blessed to be able to collaborate with you and share this with you and bring some really good insight and feedback and different ideas to college football and being a fan of college football and sharing it with, a great many people. It's been fabulous, and every year I get so excited, especially as a fan of college football, knowing that we get to do this.
Yes, indeed. Well, Avery, thank you once again. And let's keep the ball rolling. Everyone, have a great Thursday. Stay warm because it's a very cold weekend. It's going to be very cold this weekend. There's about 35 to 36, 37 states around there. Winter storm. So please, guys, stay warm. Protect yourself from head to toe, whether you're going to school or go to work. So be safe, everyone, and may God bless each and every one of you. Take care.